Welcome to the deep dive. This is where we take one big topic, look at it from different angles using great sources, and pull out the key knowledge for you. And this deep dive is brought to you by Ben's Book Summaries.
Glad to be here.
Today, we're diving into something that seems, well, pretty small, but is actually massively important: seeds. Our guide is Thor Hanson's really great book, The Triumph of Seeds: How Grains, Nuts, Kernels, Fruits, and Berries Conquered the Plant Kingdom and Shaped Human History.
It's a fantastic book. And seeds, you really can't get away from them, can you?
No, you really can't. Think about it: the coffee you had this morning, the bread for lunch, maybe the cotton in your shirt.
Fuels, spices, oils, they're just fundamental.
Absolutely. They're the base of our diets, huge parts of our economies. They really shape how we live. And it's not just us. Seed plants dominate the planet, something like over 90% of all flora.
So the big question Hansen tackles is, why? Why are they so successful, both out there in nature and, for us humans?
Right. What gives them this incredible edge over other plants, even with all our modern genetic stuff?
Well, the book really kicks off by framing seeds as this revolutionary step for plants. To get it, you have to think about what came before.
Before seeds, reproduction was pretty different, wasn't it? A lot of asexual copying, plants just making clones.
Mostly, yeah. Or if there was sexual reproduction, it was often through spores, which meant, well, less genetic mixing, and it often depended on water.
Ah, okay. So seeds changed that.
Completely. They brought in open-air breeding. Pollen could travel carried by wind, later by insects or birds, bringing genes from two different parents together, all wrapped up in this neat, protected, portable package.
That sounds like a massive evolutionary advantage.
Oh, enormous. This constant shuffling of the genetic deck, it makes seed plants incredibly adaptable. It's a huge part of why they took over.
And didn't Mendel do his famous genetics work with seeds?
Peas, right? Exactly. Hansen makes a great point about that. Imagine Mendel trying to figure out inheritance with ferns and their spores. It would have been difficult.
Yeah, Mendel's spores doesn't quite work, does it?
Not really. Pea seeds were perfect, clear traits, easy to control pollination. They were practically designed for discovering genetics.
So this portable package, what's the basic biology inside? How does it actually work?
Water is key, absolutely crucial for germination. Hansen uses this really vivid analogy, like a clown inflating balloons really fast.
Okay. How does that relate?
Inside the seed, the embryonic root cells are basically preformed. When water hits them, they just expand incredibly rapidly, like those balloons, pushing the first root down into the soil. It anchors the seedling and lets it suck up more water.
Wow, so it's like ready to launch, just needs water.
Pretty much. The infrastructure's there. Then, once it's anchored, the energy transfer starts. Those first leaves, the cotyledons, they act like a packed lunch.
A packed lunch, I like that.
Yeah, they provide the fuel for the shoot to grow upwards, reaching for sunlight. The avocado seed is a brilliant example.
Oh, the giant pit.
Exactly. It's huge because avocados evolved in rainforest shade. That massive lunch gives the seedling enough energy to grow slowly but surely up towards the canopy,
Right.
even when sunlight is really scarce down below.
So the size of the lunch depends on the environment.
Absolutely. It's totally adapted.
Yeah.
And it's not just the size. The whole structure varies massively.
Right, you mentioned cotyledons. They aren't always the same number.
Not at all. Avocados have two big ones. Grasses, like corn or wheat, just have one. Pine trees can have like 24 tiny ones.
24. Wow.
And where they store the food differs too. Sometimes it's the endosperm, which comes from the fertilization process itself. Other times it's different tissues. Perisperm, hypocotyledonal. Conifers use something called the megametophyte.
Okay, lots of different strategies.
And orchids are really wild. Their seeds are like dust. They basically pack no lunch at all and rely on fungi in the soil to feed them initially.
Fascinating.
Even the seed coat varies hugely. Think thin skin on some beans versus a rock-hard nutshell.
But despite all that variety, they all do those core things: protect the embryo, help it disperse, and give it that starting nourishment.
Precisely. That's the universal seed toolkit.
And as Hansen points out, that nourishment, that packed lunch, it wasn't just useful for baby plants, was it?
Not by a long shot. Which leads us straight into the massive impact seeds, especially grass seeds, have had on us, on human history.
It's almost hard to overstate, isn't it? Grains, wheat, rice, corn.
They're the foundation. The book explains how humans basically hijacked that stored energy meant for the seedling. We started eating the lunch.
And that started way back, dawn of agriculture stuff.
Yeah, about 10,000 years ago in the Fertile Crescent with barley and wheat. then rice in China, corn over in the Americas, sorghum and millet in Africa. These became the staples.
And the book argues these grains were key to civilizations actually rising.
Absolutely. Because they were reliable, you could store them, and you could grow enough to feed more people, allowing for settlements, specialization, the whole package.
What made grass seeds so good for farming?
Hansen highlights a few things. They're tiny, so you get lots of them. They're produced in huge numbers. And crucially, they're eager to sprout. You just need a bit of disturbed ground and some rain.
Easy to grow and harvest on a big scale.
Exactly. Unlike trying to farm avocado trees for their pits, grasses were perfect for dominating open ground, which is what early farmers needed. They have this incredible inherent potential.
The book calls grains the staff of life. That phrase really sticks.
It does. And it's amazing how true it still is. Even today, grains provide more than half of all human calories.
More than half, still.
Yep. And they cover over 70% of all of the land we cultivate. Think about it. Wheat, rice, corn, they're fundamental to global food security. Even the feed for our livestock is mostly grain.
So when ancient texts talk about famine as breaking the staff of bread, it was literal.
Utterly literal. And this importance translates directly into economic and political power.
Right. The book gets into that connection too.
Yeah, think about those giant grain elevators you see in farming regions, like the Palouse in the U.S. Northwest. They literally represent the economy there. Wheat prices dictate fortunes.
And this isn't new. Ancient Rome.
A classic example, bread and circuses, right? Cheap or free grain kept the population happy, kept order. They even had a goddess, a nona, just for the grain supply.
And when the grain supply failed?
Big trouble.
Yeah.
Hansen quotes historians saying the lack of bread was a major factor in the fall of the Western Roman Empire. Is that fundamental?
Wow. The fall of an empire linked to grain shortages. And that power continues today. The Snake River Dam's example was striking.
It really is. Those dams were built primarily initially, not for power or irrigation, but to barge wheat and barley out of the Palouse. Transporting grain was the priority, even right after World War II with massive national debt.
But that had huge consequences for salmon.
Devastating, leading to the salmon wars. And the fact that the dams remain, despite the damage, despite court rulings, trying expensive fish ladders, even barging the salmon themselves.
It just shows the incredible political weight the grain industry still carries. Sometimes the barges carry both grain and the endangered salmon.
It's a powerful illustration of that enduring connection between grain and political influence.
So grasses are obviously dominant, but the book looks beyond grains too, right? Other seeds shaping the world.
Oh, definitely. The coconut palm gets a great treatment. The tree of 1,000 uses, or tree of life.
Right. Food, drink, oil.
Building materials, rope, fuel, even mosquito repellent from the husk.
Yeah.
And the seed itself, the coconut, is an amazing dispersal vehicle. It floats. That's why they're all over tropical coastlines.
Incredible versatility. And then there's the almond. Seems simpler.
Well, yes, but it raises interesting questions. Almonds pack energy as both oil and protein. It makes you think, why the different strategies? Why do some seeds store mainly fats, others carbs, others protein?
It highlights that adaptation again. The lunch is specific to the plant's needs.
Exactly. And then you have seeds like gar.
Ah, yes, the water-holding ones.
Right. From legumes in really dry places like Rajasthan. Their seeds have this amazing ability to just soak up and hold on to water because of their complex carbohydrates.
So they can grab onto moisture from even brief rains.
Precisely. It gives them a window to germinate in harsh conditions. A neat survival trick found in other desert plants, too.
It's amazing how they've adapted. Which brings us to the evolution of seeds themselves. How do we even know about the really ancient ones? Fossils must be tricky.
Very tricky. The book explains there's a bias in the fossil record. Early seed plants often lived in coal swamps, so they fossilize really well. But that might overrepresent them.
Meaning they might have been elsewhere too, but didn't fossilize as easily?
Potentially. We find winged seeds and other oddities elsewhere, suggesting a more complex picture.
And isn't there a theory challenging the coal swamp focus? Bill DeMichel?
Yes. DeMichel argues that a lot of early seed plant diversification actually happened in drier upland areas away from the swamps. These areas just weren't as good for preserving fossils.
So our view might be skewed by what got preserved.
Could be. Hansen mentions a curator swamped with unidentified fossil seeds. One looked like a mango pit with a keel and hairs. There's probably a lot more to uncover there.
Can we learn about the transition from modern plants? The book mentions spike mosses.
Ah, yes, spike mosses are fascinating. They kind of bridge the gap. They have separate male and female spores.
Yeah.
The male one's tiny, like dust. The female one's much bigger.
Okay.
And crucially, the female spore stays on the parent plant. It's not hard to see how plants could then evolve to keep that female spore, let the egg develop right there, protected.
And the male spore becomes pollen.
Exactly. Wind-borne pollen. Suddenly you don't need water for fertilization anymore. The swimming sperm stage is gone. Pollen fertilizes the egg inside the protected female structure, and boom, you have the basics of a seed. Protected, provisioned offspring.
A huge advantage, especially in drier places where spore plants struggled.
Definitely a game changer.
Yeah.
Which led eventually to gymnosperms, the naked seed plants like pines, and then the angiosperms.
Flowering plants with seeds inside fruits.
Right. Fruit being this brilliant bribe, essentially. A tasty reward to get animals to carry your seeds somewhere else.
And back to Mendel, much easier to study genetics and domesticate plants with the nutritious seeds than with, say, ferns and their spores.
Absolutely. Try making a meal out of spores. Seeds offered that concentrated nutritional package.
Point taken. Now, another really captivating part of the book is seed dormancy. Seeds just waiting.
Suspended animation. It's crucial for survival. Lets them wait for the right time, the right conditions. Dispersal through time, not just space.
And the story of Methuselah, the Judean date palm seed. That's incredible.
Isn't it? Found at Masada, nearly 2,000 years old. And Elaine Soloway and Sarah Sallin got it to germinate. Just astonishing longevity.
2,000 years? How do they even do that?
Well, it's complex, but basically their metabolism drops to almost nothing. They're just idling incredibly slowly, using minimal energy. Plus, that hard seed coat offers protection.
And Methuselah isn't unique in lasting a long time.
No, Hanson gives other examples. Silk tree seeds sprouting after a bombing hit the British Museum. Wildflowers blooming in London after the Great Fire of 1666. Seeds dormant since before the fire.
Wow. And that long-term experiment, Beale's buried seeds.
Professor William James Beale, yep. Started in 1879, burying bottles of seeds to see how long they'd last. Some weeds were still viable after 120 years.
That has huge implications for farming, dealing with weeds.
Definitely. And also for conservation. Which brings us to seed banks.
Like the big one in Svalbard, the Doomsday Vault.
Exactly. And others like the National Seed Bank in Fort Collins. They're trying to preserve plant diversity against disasters, climate change, loss of old varieties.
Like a backup hard drive for plants. How do they make them last so long?
Super cold and super dry conditions. Hanson mentions Christina Walters' work. Those conditions dramatically slow down any remaining metabolic activity. A rice grain might last centuries like that. Wheat even longer. It's an insurance policy.
But it's not just government vaults, right? There's the people's seed banks, too.
Yes, like Seed Savers Exchange, started by Diana Wheely. They focus on heirloom varieties, passed down through families.
And the key there is planting them.
Absolutely. It's a living collection, as Wheely calls it. Saving seeds is great, but planting them, growing them, sharing them, that keeps the diversity alive and evolving. It connects people directly back to the seeds.
That personal connection that seems really important. Now, shifting gears a bit, the relationship between seeds and animals, it's not just about animals eating seeds, is it? It's more complex.
Much more. Hanson describes it as an evolutionary arms race, especially with rodents. Rodents get better teeth, seeds get harder shells, think acorns, nuts.
But some seeds go the other way, get smaller.
Yeah, hoping to be swallowed whole or just missed. It's all about strategy.
The book mentioned handling time. What's that?
Basically, how long it takes an animal to get through the defenses to the nutritious part. A seed needs to be tough enough to deter some predators, but not so tough that its main disperser can't open it, or gets eaten itself while trying.
The almendro seed example was amazing. Super tough shell.
Incredibly tough. Hanson mentions trying to crack one with a hammer and chipping the concrete instead. It's a great defense against rodents.
But even that doesn't stop everything.
No, because other animals come to eat the rodents. So you get this whole ecosystem building up around the almendro trees, rodents, snakes, hawks, even jaguars, all drawn by the seeds and the animals eating them.
A whole food web based on one seed type. And there was that theory about heart seeds and human evolution.
David Strait's idea, yeah.
Yeah.
The hard food theory. That eating tough nuts and seeds might have influenced the evolution of strong jaws and teeth in our hominid ancestors. Still debated, but fascinating.
Plants aren't just passive, though. They fight back chemically, spices and poisons.
Exactly. Alkaloids are common defenses. Capsaicin in chili peppers burns mammals, but birds, which spread the seeds, don't feel it.
So it selects the right disperser. And it's antifungal, too.
Research suggests that, yeah, an extra benefit. And of course, we humans co-opted those defensive chemicals for flavor spices.
But some are seriously dangerous. Poisons.
Definitely. Ricin from castor beans is notorious. Hanson tells the chilling story of Georgy Markov's assassination with a ricin pellet. Hemlock, strychnine, the suicide tree. Seeds can be deadly. Even Shakespeare used henbane seeds for the poison in Hamlet's ear.
A dark side for sure. But sometimes these same chemicals can be medicine.
That's the fascinating duality. Ricin is being looked at for cancer therapies. Coumarin, found in almendro seeds, has medicinal uses. There's a long history of finding medicines in plants, often concentrated in their seeds.
Okay, so defense, offense.
Yeah.
What about just getting around dispersal? How do seeds travel?
So many ways. Some explode like castor beans, literally flinging their seeds.
Really, explosions.
Yep. Others bribe ants with a little fatty snack called an elaiosome. Ants carry the seed off, eat the snack, discard the seed.
Clever. And wind, obviously.
Wind is huge. Dandelions with their parachutes, maple keys spinning down, and the Javan cucumber seed.
Ah, the one that inspired the airplane.
An incredible story, isn't it? Its wing design was so efficient, Ego Etrich copied it for his taube plane, which then influenced aircraft design all the way to the B-2 bomber. From a seed wing to a stealth bomber.
Mind-blowing. Talk about biomimicry.
Truly. And animals, of course. Fruit bats eating almendro fruit and spreading the seeds. Or think about burrs sticking to fur.
What about cotton? How does that disperse?
Cotton uses wind with those fluffy fibers and also flotation on water, but getting those fibers off the seeds was the problem.
Right. Hand ginning was incredibly slow and difficult.
Until Eli Whitney's cotton gin, which revolutionized cotton production, but tragically also massively revitalized slavery in the American South.
A technological leap with devastating human consequences shows how tangled it all is.
Absolutely. Nature, technology, society, all interacting.
The book also touched on seedless fruits, like watermelons. What are the implications there?
Convenience for us, definitely. But it means farmers and gardeners can't save seeds from those varieties. You have to buy new hybrid seeds every year from the big companies.
So it shifts control. And potentially reduces diversity.
Exactly. It undermines that tradition of seed saving, the kind Diane Ott Wheely champions, that personal connection, passing down seeds. Seedless varieties break that chain.
It feels like we're circling back to the beginning, that human connection to seeds, but now mediated by technology and commerce.
In a way, yes. And Hanson ends with this really interesting thought. Evolution doesn't stop. The triumph of seed, as we know them, might not be the final chapter.
What does he suggest?
He points to orchids. They're incredibly successful, hugely diverse. But their seeds are like dust. Tiny, almost no stored food, totally reliant on finding the right fungus to partner with.
A completely different strategy.
A very different path to success. It makes you wonder, maybe the future belongs to something simpler, lighter, more dependent on partnerships. It's a reminder that biology is always innovating.
Well, this has been truly fascinating, a real deep dive into something so small yet so powerful. The ingenuity in seeds, their impact, it's just staggering.
It really is. You look at a handful of seeds, and you're looking at the foundation of ecosystems, the fuel of civilizations, incredible chemistry, amazing journeys, all packed inside.
They really have shaped everything. So for everyone listening, next time you encounter a seed in your food, in the garden, anywhere, maybe pause for a second. Think about the incredible journey, the biology, the history packed into that tiny thing.
And consider what other everyday natural things might hold similar deep stories and connections, just waiting to be understood.
A great thought to end on. This deep dive was brought to you by Ben's Book Summaries.